Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Amos Product Call. We've gathered here today to discuss the backend as well as the front end specification, the changes to the specification for the Amos product. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, essentially, while working on executing the backend specification, Ani and I have realized that there were some gaps in it. And while sort of thinking about it in order to revise it, I realized that a sort of slightly larger change would be at hand. So that's exactly what I did. And so let's go through it now, and then we can discuss some comments. So first of all, I think it's a good idea to get rid of the proposals entirely. Um, the reason is like what motivated this decision. Um, so the proposals were always meant to be sort of the maintenance of the resource tree, but then we realized that assuming we have to do this, then that's sort of implicitly assuming that whoever added the resource would get to choose where in the resource tree it is, what we used to call position in the resource tree. But we want to have this property in our system that whoever added the resource doesn't have any extra privileges. Everything is the first person is just the first voter, and everything else that comes after is of equal value. So essentially, I think it's a good idea to get rid of the proposals. The three major benefits of that, of course, would be that the whole system will be simplified for the users, the whole system will be simplified for the backend team, and the whole system will be simplified for the front end team. And if we get rid of that, we can also get rid of the resources screen, because the only motivation for that one was literally so that you could go through the resource tree and find inconsistencies. Um, so I cloned the wireframes, and I have a version 2. Um, we also have a team set up now on Whimsical. So if you'd like access, like comment level or edit level access to these files, then reach out and I'll invite you, because we have a proper Solvio team, and we have the Amos folder, and there we have everything we're working on. So as you can see, the sign up screen is unchanged. The search screen is pretty much unchanged. I also added the current status. This can either be in this chat form, or it can be like displayed in a regular form, text form, as a way to motivate the user. How many data, the progress to when we decided when we promised we're gonna introduce search. And also over here, I made a lot of changes. So let's have a look at that. So this is the same. Now, the first message is, let's start with access. What ways are there to access the resource? For each access way, I need the format, price, and a link. So essentially, access got moved to the top. Before, it used to be position was the very first one, but it seems to me much more natural to have position be number 2, and the very first one be access. So access, of course, as always, includes the link. I also separated these, so now you can do text, video, audio, and only if you do text will you get a bunch of other options. And paid right now is, let me bring it all the way to the front. So that didn't work. Let's try again. Bring it all the way to the front. Okay, well, it's not working, but it's either free, paid, or subscription only. We can also, if you choose subscription only, then we can also add another text box saying with subscription, and then we can add the most common subscriptions that we expect people to be interested in, such as a Netflix subscription, an Audible subscription, a Kindle Unlimited, but that's optional, and maybe for the MVP, like yeah, totally fine if it's there.
Dominic, some feedback. I would prefer, just as like if I was using this, I'd prefer the next to be after all of the like drop down menus instead of right next to the access.
Okay, perfect. So you're saying we should move it to the bottom.
Yeah, because
What
yeah.
about for this one, for example?
Yeah, I feel like also at the bottom, not at the top, because I like especially if like these things will get really long. Like
Right.
you scroll down, and then I don't want to have to scroll back up to click next.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Perfect. Uh, I wish Michelle was here so that you could take that into account when thinking about the mock-ups and the critique. But yeah, thanks a lot. Next, we have the position, which is pretty much the same as before, whether it's a sub-resource, i.e. a child resource, a parent resource, connecting resource, or a first-class resource. Now, I want to take a pause here and go back to the specification changes. Okay. The other thing is you don't actually lose reputation anymore, so you can only gain reputation. Again, the reason is it came out from the implementation of the spec. Since we're currently going with a model where it doesn't pre-fill the metadata once you enter the link, then sort of there will actually not be any opportunity to add the no votes, right? So it doesn't actually pre-fill it, and so you can only, it's sort of this positive only approach, and so it doesn't make sense, or like it makes sense on some level, but on a more sound level, if the user flow is much more skewed towards positive votes rather than negative votes, then there will be little reason to ever fear negative votes, and in fact, it's just much easier to get rid of them entirely. And now this is the really important part. This is the new stuff. So as soon as you enter the URL in the review section, then we'll send an HTTP request to the page, and the idea is to use the information that we get from that DOM tree. In particular, the HTML title tag to fill in the resource title. This can either be also on the front end or it can only be on the back end. If some meta tags exist, such as Android and iOS links, there's even a canonical URL tag. So if we have a look at an example page, this is a page from medium.com, then there even exists, yeah, I mean, an HTML tag somewhere, I can't find it now, which says canonical URL, which is like the URL that should be used, not necessarily the current URL. So we can use that data either as also either on the front end. For example, for this one, we can, if it's different than the current URL, then we can automatically add a new section, a new access. So these will be triplets. There can be multiple, and fill in the canonical URL. So we sort of do this processing where even if a person doesn't enter the canonical URL from the HTML tree, we can parse it and we can fill it in for the user on the front end automatically. And this is really important. So if it's specific sites like YouTube or Medium or Khan Academy, whatever, then we can actually fill in possibly even more information. So I actually went through the trouble of doing quite a lot of looking into this. Um, so these are some of the most popular resource providers that we expect sort of to have. And for example, with YouTube, it's very easy. Actually, YouTube is great. It's just amazing. So you either have youtube.com/watch question mark b equals and then the ID of the video, or you have a short URL which is accessible either from mobile or through web. and it's u2.b/ the hash or the ID or whatever it is of the video. And if you go here, it always redirects to the main one. In other words, if somebody enters this as the link, which would happen if they were sharing it through our future mobile app. So if they click share of this video through the YouTube app and they click Amos, then the Amos app opens up, but the URL would be this one because this is the one that on mobile is defaultly shared. Well, it's great that automatically there's like a 302 or 307 HTTP status code, which is redirect, and it redirects to this one automatically. So when we do the HTTP request, we'll be able to get this video and then fill that in as sort of another access triplet. Medium is really annoying. It's actually the most annoying of any one of these. So just to, yeah, I mean, this is not important. I'm not gonna have to discuss this, but this is important. So for some reason, I don't know why, but the way that Medium is structured is like you always have the article title and then you have the ID of the article. But then if you do sharing through the mobile app, it turns into link.medium.com/y, and I've not been able to find any relationship between X and Y. So it actually turns out to be a different ID than if you share the full link. That's what it says over here. Main URL ID and short URL ID are different. Nevertheless, it still redirects. So again, we can fill that out automatically for the user on the front end. Stack Exchange is very simple. A lot of these also, they have the properties that the title is essentially just for visualization. So if you actually enter a different title, it will either still work or it will automatically redirect you to the proper title. So both Medium and Stack Exchange have this property that the titles of the resources, the questions, or the articles may be changed arbitrarily, and the ID stays the same. And also, if you enter a different article title, then it will redirect. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna have to discuss each of these. Amazon is really weird. Like it's just so unstandard. Like I did some fiddling with it. So audible.com, there's an ID obviously for every resource. But then if you go to Amazon, and even if you click audiobook, the Audible version, the ID that you can find in the URL is actually different than the ID in the Audible app. And it's also different than if you click the Kindle version, like they're all different. So it's just really pain in the ass. And yeah, I mean, I don't have to go through everything. The point is for some very popular resource providers that we expect, we can do some custom logic to help the user and to get more metadata. Okay, so that's what I expect over here is somebody enters link.medium.com/something, and immediately our server will send back to the app the instruction that a new triplet should be added with the URL not in the short URL form, but rather in the main URL form. Cool. So now the only thing that sort of still sucks is, okay, so here's the hard part. The internet is composed of individual articles, like from blogs, from independent blogs. That's pretty much okay because there's usually a canonical URL. It's also composed of a lot of these resource providers that we can learn about the way they do their URL logic, and we can do some processing there. But then there's things
Dom,
centralized. Yeah, go on.
what about Reddit threads or Twitter threads?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is easy. Twitter is definitely canonical. I think Reddit as well.
Okay.
Um, the thing that's pretty hard because it's very decentralized are podcasts,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Podcasts are very decentralized in that they like sort of the canonical form of a podcast is usually the standard is like an RSS feed, and then every single provider, your podcast app, you just enter the link to the RSS feed, and they can turn that into essentially their own product. Like I use the app player.fm for podcasts, and yeah, if you enter podcast over here, then you can get a player FM link for it, and that kind of sucks because then other people might enter the iTunes link or the Google Podcast link or the Spotify link. So, in other words, it can still happen even in the best cases of our processing logic that two URLs actually represent the same resource, or I should say, two sort of resources that are in our tree are different actually represent the same exact resource. So I think the way to handle that is slightly like just slightly not manually, but here. Um, if somebody adds the first URL to the second resource as an access field, or vice versa, and a threshold amount of reputation confirm it, for example, 50 amount of reputation, then actually the database will merge the two resources on the database layer. So this is the equivalent of what in the past was a merge proposal. And if it succeeded, those two resources would be merged. I think we can just handle it in the reviews itself. Yeah. So let's say there's one resource, which is the Spotify link, and another resource, which is the Stitcher link. Then if somebody goes and they share the Stitcher link with their app, their mobile Amos app, or they enter it through our web app, and they also add the Spotify link. And then if they have at least 50% of reputation, or if they don't, then other people do it as well. Then we merge the two resources. So luckily, we've already discussed what merging two resources is in one of the previous calls, so we already have that part. This might also mean reviewers of both resources will get a sudden boost of reputation, because now there's suddenly a big discrete jump in the number of people that agree with them, right? So you voted on that it has some particular topic, and now since the resources are merged, you get all of the other people that voted after you from the other resource. So you might get a big boost of reputation. That also means, by the way, this is kind of off topic, that we have to store the date time of the individual votes. I don't have to store their order, because if two resources would be merged, we would have to figure out, we would have to essentially, merge the two ordered lists. So the resource tree, I mean, this is, we had this before as well, just we didn't realize it. The resource tree is actually a floating one, unlike the topic tree, which is fixed. So we'll take the position for every resource to be that whichever has the most votes. So in the wireframes, I also need to add, like, I don't know why it's not here. Maybe it is here, but it's just under the drop down. If you want to add it as a child resource, then of course you also have to specify what's the parent resource, and then similarly for all of these. And whichever of these has sort of the highest vote on an absolute level, that's going to be the position of the resource in the resource tree. So if, for example, two resources get merged by the mechanism that we described a few minutes ago, it can happen that the position of the resource will actually jump because now there's a new influx of reputation. Now, I think our setup is much easier than it used to be, which I'm really happy about. And with this setup, it's easier to implement reputation as a tree. So whatever you vote on, you get reputation in the topics that you enter. Okay, so this is like subject to change, but here's one proposal how to do it. So first, I'll discuss the problem. So what's the problem? Problem is, um, like if you want reputation to be a tree, what uh, topics or yeah, what topics should you be getting reputation for when you vote on a resource, when you review a resource? And I yeah, I guess there's two obvious ways to decide on this. Either we take some constant amount of the most popular resources, so we always take the three most popular resources, or maybe a little bit more semantic logic, like something like the resources that make up at least 80% of all the upvotes for the topics. So sorry, the topics, not the resources, the topics that make up at least 80% of all the upvotes for the topics section. Or we do it in that you get reputation in the topics that you entered. So okay, I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm voting on learning dependencies, and let's say a bunch of people agree with me. Then if reputation is a tree, where does that reputation go, right? We need to assign it to one specific topic. Remember, reputation bubbles up, so it's going to bubble up all the way to the top, but still there has to be some topic, some node in the tree that we assign it to. And so yeah, there's two ways to do this. Either we assign it to the nodes, the topics that are the most popular as voted by everyone, or we assign it to the nodes, the topics that you voted for. I think the latter option is better when I think about it, because it incentivizes you to also post as many topics, well, that are relevant, but also it also incentivizes you to be as granular or as detailed or as specific as possible. And the reason for that is that reputation bubbles up. So if you say something is the topic for number theory, you will not be getting any reputation for any of the children of number theory. But if you say it's for Euler's theorem, then you will get reputation for Euler's theorem, but you will also get reputation for number theory, for mathematics, and on and on. So you get reputation for the entire vertical column of the topic tree. So this is something that, what do you guys think? Should you be getting reputation on the topics that other people voted are the best ones, or the ones that you voted are the best ones?
I feel like you should be getting reputation for whatever was voted the highest that you submitted.
To be getting reputation for whatever you voted was the highest. Wait, sir, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so here, like, I'll rephrase it. So basically what I mean is that if you submit a resource and let's say that it gets more than X amount of votes, upvotes, so a lot of people like it, or more than X people like it, then you'll then get the reputation points.
Right. But which topic are those reputation points assigned to?
Those reputation points are assigned to the parent topic that you submitted the resource to.
Yeah, I mean, but like, is it, what do you mean by parent topic, right? Like in this model, there's no sort of source of truth. There's not like one single source of truth. So is it you mean by the parent topic, you mean the parent topic that you submitted as the topics, or the parent topic as the parent topic that other people submitted as the topics?
No, so the topic that you submitted, not other people.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I like that approach as well for the incentivization reasons. The only sort of bad thing about that approach is that it opens up, an obvious sort of doorway to gaming, in that like you could, in theory, submit really weird topics here that don't correspond to the actual topic, and then obviously you won't be getting any reputation for the topic because nobody would be agreeing with you. But then if your learning dependencies are correct, then you would actually be getting reputation for topics that are not actual topics on that resource. But I think that might be a marginal thing that we don't have to overthink.
Yeah, fair point. And also, two things just came into mind. One of them would be that on the like when you search for topic, and then like you click on the topic, so it'd be like whatever URL /topic name, or whatever we choose.
Right.
And then there would be like a list of resources and a study plan.
Right.
In that,
All of that is going to be really epic once we introduce search.
yes, but in that view, if people have submitted, then we should like submitted different resources that don't have enough votes yet. We should like put a little banner saying, "Hey, this guy submitted this resource. Do you want to check it out?" And then they can click on it, and they're just like, "Yeah, okay, that corresponds to the topic," and then they can upvote it.
Yep.
Yeah, and then second thing is that have you heard of Project Euler?
I have actually. Well, I mean, just heard. I'm not involved.
Yeah, so basically what it is that it's coding problems, and you write code on your computer and you get an answer, and then you submit the answer on the website.
Right, right.
And then after you submit so many questions, you can actually get like a badge that you can embed into your like website and stuff like that, that shows that, oh hey, user so and so has completed this many Project Euler questions in one go and this many in two goes and so on. So maybe we should do something like that where like we can embed the person's reputation.
Definitely. I mean, all of that stuff is like, like extra features. That's never a problem to discuss. But like at some point, like what I'm trying to say, like the reputation, how it actually works, how it functions, and then you can like build all the badges, accomplishments, all of that stuff on top of it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. We definitely don't want a bloated MVP.
Right.
Yeah.
So Open Badges actually provides badges, and you can sign up and generate badges for your own project and so on.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of projects use it, including Mozilla. So most of the projects of Mozilla use Open Badges.
That's great. Yeah, definitely something to look into once we have the MVP out and have a lot of
Also, we still do have the UAG. Do we?
Sorry?
The UAG Unlimited Amos game.
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of, so yeah, in terms of the old backend specs, we've gotten rid of the limited Amos game, the proposals, and the unlimited Amos game, we sort of turned it upside down where there's no votes.
There's no what?
There's no votes. There's only yes votes.
Right.
Yes, I agree with that. I like that better than losing reputation, like having negative reputation if you don't submit a well enough topic or resource. Yeah.
Right. Review. So there's another way to do it, which would be, I mean, this is kind of important, right? Because the way we structure how to get reputation is essentially the meaning that reputation will have in our system, right? So reputation is a very vague word. Like, what does it actually mean? What does it symbolize? Does it symbolize your skill in that topic? So the way we structure the mechanics of how you gain it and how you can use it, that's what will give reputation its meaning. So another possibility is that for the topics, it's the ones that you selected, because there the incentives align. You want to select the topics that other people are going to select, so that you can gain reputation for them. And then for the learning dependencies, um, yeah, I think this makes sense. And I'm not sure if it complicates the code, but I can't imagine, because all this stuff is kind of hard to talk about in like design, but then the actual implementation is a few lines of code. The learning dependencies, when you will be getting reputation from those based on not the topics that you submitted, but the most popular topics. Yeah, so then I think splitting it up into these two options, we get the best of both worlds. We get the incentive to be as specific as possible, as granular as possible, so that you get reputation on a lower node in the reputation tree, and since it bubbles up, then you have a larger section of the column, as well as for learning dependencies, the reputation not being based on your topics, but being based on the most popular topics. And then it's safe that you can't really just spam the system. But by the way, just to back up, there is always, of course, the option to assign it to the topic that is the learning dependency. But I just think that doesn't make sense. I just think that I can know that it's a learning dependency without knowing that topic. And then it would kind of, we're not very obsessed with having a one-to-one correlation between your skill in a topic and your reputation in that topic, because reputation is your contributions to the platform, not your knowledge of that topic. But nevertheless, there should be at least some correlation. And yeah, in fact, most of the time when you will be entering learning dependency, I think most of the time there will be people entering it when they don't know it rather than when they do. And so I don't think that you should be getting reputation for a topic that you don't know. So I just wanted to back up, like, that's the obvious option, but I don't think that's a good one. And so that's why we're discussing whether it should be topics that you submitted or the most popular topics. Cool. What else do we have on the schedule? So here, yeah, similarly, voting on something. Okay, this is important. So we just discussed this. Now, voting on something will take into account your reputation for the topics that you enter. So if you vote on topics, it will take into account your reputation for the topics that you voted on. This makes sense as well. And if you vote on learning dependencies, then it can also take into account the most popular topics. Like before, yeah, this is perfect. It's symmetric. Okay. However, I wrote this is still work in progress, but now I think it makes sense, and for now that's finalized. But there is one disadvantage, which is it would mean that you would get no reputation and your votes would have no value if you didn't enter any topics. So So we've discussed these two, but then there's also the access and the position, and how should those work? And I think they can work the same as learning dependencies. So that way we actually remove this disadvantage as well, because now it's possible to enter just position or just access or just learning dependency without entering topic, and you will still be getting reputation for the most popular topics. Yeah, I think that's really nice. So just to summarize, we split it up into topics where you're gaining reputation and you're sort of staking or using reputation for the topics that you submitted, and all the other ones where you're gaining or using reputation for the topics that other people submitted. Okay, so I also have new wireframes that blah, blah, blah. I've done some work analyzing blah, blah, blah. You've already seen that. And final notes. What I really like about the solution is that it also solves the problem of link moving. So since you can't lose reputation, you will be beholden if a link suddenly stops working. And this is also very interesting. So sort of in this model, for it to kind of work well, we're assuming that the metadata is not public through like a public API, because then it would be very easily gameable. But I think at least for the MVP, we'll just go with that. And in that case, it still retains the old incentivization mechanics, because you want to select the option that other people will be selecting, right? Like before there was this fear of other people saying no and then you losing reputation. Now you don't have anything to lose, but you have a lot to gain. And you know, and if you kind of abstract it, you can think of it as a hash map based shelling game. You can think of our topic tree as, you know, a near infinite amount of options with a little bit of creativity, and you want to select the one that other people are selecting, i.e. the shelling point of the entire shelling game. Cool. So that's it. What are the next steps? I think,
So,
yeah, Ani.
so one concern that I'm having is if you can't lose rep, wouldn't that increase the chances of spam?
No. And the reason is exactly this. Like, what do you mean by spam? So, like for me, spam means that you just try to select, you try to review a bunch of resources and you try to like select a bunch of topics and hope that it works out. But since, you know, if there's a sufficient amount of topics, then the chances that you selecting the correct one are very, very slim.
So from where I am seeing it is, people can just post, random links and for resources and select random topics.
Okay.
And there's at least one.
Right. So this exact argument that's written over here applies for the resources themselves. So if you think about it, yeah, sure, we can have a database where there's a bunch of spam, but the ones that are spam will only have one vote. And, you know, we can do some easy maintenance that, you know, we get rid of everything that only has one vote. So if you think of, you know, all the different links on the web, you know, those that are not learning resources are likely only to be submitted by the spammer and no one else. And so they're likely to die in the long run. The only ones that will be getting votes by other people will be the ones that are actually, you know, of interest to people, especially since we don't have search and we don't have, in fact, any way to discover resources right now. Then then yeah, the only ones that will actually flourish will be the ones that are added by multiple people. Of course, this is assuming like a simple security property of our system, which is that one user has one vote, but one user has one account. But we've sort of already discussed that in the previous calls, and we've already gone through that.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back to that example that we discussed the other day and run down this flow, but maybe we can do that later if it's.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that what are the next steps? I think I'm going to be working with Ani to develop the sort of initial structure for the server. We can even do some kind of pair programming. If you guys have some platforms that you would recommend for pair programming, then let me know. I think there's like Code Sandbox that allows like multiple people to work like Google Docs style on the same code. On the front end side, I will be getting in touch with Michelle also, so that maybe we can get the mockups. That would be great. And then ideally, we want to sort of scale, especially the front end project. So we want to really modularize it into like tickets or issues or whatever you want to call them, and start working on this on a scalable level. That's sort of my goal before I begin fundraising. There's no point beginning fundraising. It's going to be a big venture. I think it's going to take up more time than I thought. And there's no point starting it when the team still needs like sort of my input when it comes to whatever, or when there's just one person working on a project. But once we have sort of once we can scale from a development side, and the whole thing is sort of self-sustaining, then that'll free up my time so that we can get paid.
Yeah, cool.
Oh yeah, and there's a possibility. So another thing is I'll be getting in touch with everyone that's been interested in the project in the last few weeks. Sort of to go to the bottom line if they're also interested in executing, and ideally we'll also, so that's gonna take up some time, and maybe tomorrow or on Thursday when I sort of have calls with people and they tell me what their plans / commitment is, then we'll be able to have a list of people that we can actually rely on, either part-time or more, to make this happen. Um, and and then there's also the possibility, if we have a lot of people, if we have say 6 people working on the front end, that we can actually begin developing the Chrome extension as well, because there's no point 6 people working on a web app, so we could do 2 projects. But we also want to share the code between the 2 projects. But yeah, let's leave that until we know who's actually participating. I mean, you guys remember in the past there was like Gabriel who was joining the calls and stuff like that. So for some reason, a lot of people, I don't know why they. So I'm gonna get in touch with them again. I don't know why they yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, and from the fundraising side, it's also it's not just the fact that it's harder to go back and forth, and the reason is, so my plan is I have a list of about 10. I mean, I can show you guys, this isn't exactly a secret. Here. What was its status? Oh, it's in stage. Okay, so actually this one should be decided. So I have a list of about 12 or so venture philanthropy funds that I'm getting in touch with now, which was meant to be today, but it's being moved to next Tuesday because there's stuff to do still. And so most of these have sort of telephones. So my plan is to call them up and then follow up by email. So as you can see, it's a big list, and I expect it to take up time, and that's why I didn't want to begin it when there's still specification, team, scalability, etc. To work out. But once we're working on a scalable level, then I can do it. And also, it's very important that we actually have development activity, because if I follow up with an email and I attach a link to our GitHub, well, it kind of doesn't make sense if there's just one commit, 7 days ago, and we need to have regular activity by people. That's nothing against, like, I really appreciate and value everyone's work, especially the first commit. It's just that we need some more in order to show that it's enough not having a traction and not having a product, but at least if we're in the very early stage, we at least have to show that we have a great vision, a great team, and most importantly, interest. Like interest of a great team that's actually active, that's actually interested in working on the project. There's no better way to show interest than through action. Okay. Anything else? I mean, I talked for quite a long time. Do you guys have any comments, suggestions, advice?
You're traveling to SF soon, right?
Yeah, quite soon. I think it's going to be more of a, on the other hand, most of these are actually based in the Bay Area, it turns out. Most of them are based in the Bay Area, so that's really cool. But I don't know about the meetup. I mean, I might do that. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but it's definitely going to be. I think I hope to meet with some venture philanthropists there.
Yeah. 500 startups is also a good VC fund, right?
Well, they're based in. I thought they were based in New York City.
They're based in California, Mountain View.
Yeah, they're Bay Area as well, but they're an incubator that's for profit, right? So that's very different from
I see.
what we are. Y Combinator luckily has a nonprofit route. 500 startups does not. That's still like on the main goal, and I think we're on track. Like, I think we're maybe I feel like stuff isn't happening as fast as I wanted, but actually in reality, from an objective point of view, I think we're moving pretty fast. Like, I've seen other startups, my friends' startups, and it's like after 6 months, they find the first co-founder, and it doesn't work out. So for another 6 months, they're searching for another one, and they make a product after 2 years. And I still think that we can release a product within 2 months, gain a lot of traction, gain 100 signups per day, and get into Y Combinator in October.
Yeah. So Pioneer has this Pioneer.app as like it's sort of like a
yeah, I know about them. I
game.
just think that it's a little bit too small for us. I mean, like it's a different use case. I mean, therefore, individuals working on side projects or working on their own projects.
Yeah, true.
Trying to set up a company.
True that. But then you get good connects from here. So they have this advisory board. So I got connected to some good people. This guy from CoinList, Mark, I forgot his name.
It's on my list as well. So the way I've taken these from the list is just from top to bottom, and they're sorted by. I couldn't find a more intelligent way to sort it than by the number of Twitter followers. That's another huge thing, is that some of these institutions have a lot of influence on Twitter. I mean, Melinda Gates is at almost 2 million, but that's obviously a little bit out of our reach right now. But even these guys, like 500,000 reach on Twitter. So if we're able to get partnerships, it will not just mean funding on a financial side. It would also mean getting the project in front of the world on a idea side. Let's spread ideas. And then most importantly, once we build a product, then getting a massive amount of initial users. I think that in some sense, we're both. Like there's projects that are purely software, there's projects that are purely non-software, and for us it's really both. I mean, yes, we're working on this project called Amos, but the whole project, the whole company doesn't begin and end with Amos. Like if Amos doesn't work out for whatever reason, if our sort of business hypotheses turn out to be wrong for whatever reason, then at least I am still going to continue with the project because I think that has value regardless of whether Amos works or doesn't work out. So for me, Amos is a sufficient but not necessary condition for the entire project to work out. The goal of the entire project is, as you guys already know, it's to create an education system that would be fully equivalent to a Formula One, and yet it would not be tied to a national government. It would be the first ever such education system where you could educate yourself in any way you want and get credentials in any way you want. And Amos is a sufficient condition, I think, that if we're able to get a lot of traction with this, then I think we can create such an education system. But there could be other approaches. So if like somebody were to ask, like, what's your KPI? Of course, in some sense, like for this specific product, of course, I mean, it's DAU, MAU, daily active users, monthly active users, etc. But for the whole project, maybe a KPI is how many people are reading about the long-term vision, the long-term idea. Maybe Amos is just a promotion material for people to read our website and watch our explanation videos, and most importantly, start thinking about education in a decentralized sense. So in some sense, and that was the idea all along, is to build Amos as a way to get what's the right word, like recognition or traction or attention, right? But the long-term goal is to get people to actually join this decentralized education system full-time, or at least to offer a better product than existing solutions. Anyways, I've bored you for long enough. So yeah, I really think that I really hope it's going to work out with this product. And it would also, like, regardless of what I said, it would be a really amazing product. Like, really amazing. Like, anyone I talk to, we agree, if you want to search for learning resources, there's a bunch of options, right? There's Udemy, there's Coursera, there's even, Google itself, but none of them work, right? Like, Udemy just searches Udemy, Coursera just searches Coursera. Google will probably bring up the Wikipedia page of whatever you're looking for, which is written probably by PhD students for PhD students. Probably won't understand anything if you look up a very technical topic on Wikipedia. So there is great, I think, market need for an app that allows you to seamlessly, easily search across all the learning resources on the web, and also have metadata about them that it will use to give you the learning path that's personalized to be the best for you. So any last comments? I'm going to stop recording in 3,